Good evening. You're watching Left, Right and Centre on what has been a politically explosive day for the UPA government. The CBI has told the Supreme Court that one of its reports on the coal scam was shared with Law Minister Ashwini Kumar and officials of the Prime Minister's office. While the government continues to defend itself, has the Law Minister's position become completely untenable? And in fact, as the BJP says, should the Prime Minister take responsibility? Has this eroded the credibility of the UPA? That's going to be our big debate. I'm Nidhi Razdan, and let's get straight to the top story. In a major political embarrassment for the UPA, CBI Director Ranjit Sinha today told the Supreme Court that a draft of the agency's status report on the coal scam was shared with Law Minister Ashwini Kumar and senior officials of the Prime Minister's office and Coal Ministry as desired by them. However, the affidavit is silent on whether any changes were made to that draft. The Congress at the moment is backing Ashwini Kumar, saying there's been no wrongdoing because the final report was not seen by the government. But the BJP has upped their attack. They say this has gone way beyond the Law Minister and straight to the Prime Minister's doorstep.
A bombshell by CBI Director Ranjit Sinha. He's told the top court that Law Minister Ashwini Kumar had indeed asked to see CBI's report on the coal scam before it was presented in Supreme Court. The report was also shared with officials of the Prime Minister's office and Coal Ministry as desired by them. But he said the latest status report that was submitted to the court today has not been shared with the government and promised they wouldn't share in future as well.
Now we have already filed it in the Supreme Court and now it is in the public domain. I don't have to say anything more about that.
The CBI chief's admission sparked a massive political storm.
It only reinforces our demands which we are making in the Parliament for him to resign and the Law Minister to be sacked.
It's not a question of you, the principal opposition party and the Congress party fighting out between each other. There is a degree of match fixing here.
But as the UPA huddled in a meeting for some damage control, the message was very clear. The government was going to brazen it out till at least the bench heard the matter in Supreme Court.
The Law Minister is not resigning. The content of the report, much of it is provided by the Coal Ministry. At some point of time, the Prime Minister was holding the portfolio of coal. So some content is provided from there. Then there is a legal aspect of it. The final report has not been seen by the political executive.
Law Minister Ashwini Kumar said the same to the Prime Minister in a meeting. He did not offer to resign but instead told the Prime Minister to wait for the Supreme Court hearing on the case next week before taking the next step. Ashwini Kumar also assured the Prime Minister that there is no case against either the Coal Ministry or the Law Ministry.
While the government maintains that the Law Minister is not going anywhere, the opposition is only increasing its pressure. But all eyes will now be on the Supreme Court, where this matter now comes up next Tuesday, where even the petitioners in this case say that they will be putting forth many questions to the CBI. They say that the affidavit filed by the CBI Director in effect hides more than it reveals.
With Bureau Inputs in New Delhi, Sunetra Chaudhary for NDTV.
And so, does the buck stop with the Prime Minister as well? Is this a scandal that goes way beyond the Law Minister, as the BJP says? Should the Prime Minister also take responsibility? Well, we'll have our panel joining us shortly. Joining us right now, we have Mr. D.R. Karthikeyan, the former director of the CBI. Abid Rasool Khan, senior Congress leader, joins us from Hyderabad. We have Rajya Sabha MP from the BJP, Mr. Chandan Mitra, and our commentator tonight, Aarti Jairath. Let me first take that question to Mr. Karthikeyan. Mr. Karthikeyan, when you look at what the CBI's affidavit says, it doesn't really put the CBI in the greatest light either, because many would say that the agency compromised itself and its so-called independence by showing the status report to the government in the first place.
Well, I think the affidavit of the Director CBI, as it appears in the media, states the factual position. He has just said what has happened actually, and he said he had shown it to the persons concerned in the government as decided by them. He has not voluntarily taken anything to them, and he says he has also assured that there is no changes made in the report submitted to the court, and also the final report has not been shared with anyone else.
And you believe that? I mean, Mr. Karthikeyan, excuse my skepticism here, but there are two things that I extrapolate from that. One, that, even if it was desired, as the affidavit says, by the Law Minister and the PMO to see this report, why should it be shown to them at all? Mr. Ranjit Sinha could have said, no, it's inappropriate. These are the ministries, or at least the PMO certainly, that is under a cloud over these coal allocations. Secondly, how do we know that no change was made between the draft and the final report? How is this appropriate?
That we will not know, only the court will decide. Court will know, will come to know, and it is between the director CBI and the court. We will not be able to speculate on that. On the question whether it should have been shared at all, particularly on a matter which has been monitored by the highest court, the apex court, and where it said it need not, the political executive need not be kept in the picture. Yes, the director could have explained to them that such matter cannot be shown to them.
Okay, so you do admit there has been a clear failing on the CBI's part as well. Let me get first comments then from the opposition. Mr. Chandan Mitra, to you first. The government's defense today has been, well, this was a draft report that was shown to the Law Minister and to officials. The final report was not vetted by them, and therefore, we rest our case. Is that a very weak argument in your view?
No, I think it's absolutely hilarious kind of things, and the CBI and the government are tying themselves up in knots. Let us start where we should start. The CBI told the court on the 12th of March that they have not shown the draft report to anybody, and the court directed that this should not be shown to any political authority before being presented to the court. So first and foremost, the CBI is in contempt of court for having shown this report in the first place. The draft report, final report, this is not relevant. The court suspected that the report had been shown, which is why they asked the CBI specifically not to show it, and said that now put this down in an affidavit. Now they have put it down in an affidavit and admitted that they have shown it. I mean, what is this hair splitting that the Congress is trying to indulge in and saying it is not the final report, it is only the draft report? The court has said don't show any report, and they are not supposed to show any report. Now, not just did they show the report, there were changes made. In other words, the CBI willingly allowed the government to tamper with their findings. And now they are trying to tell that, this is the report, is an independent investigation. I mean, how far can you stretch credulity for anybody in this country to believe that the CBI has not acted, on the direct orders of the Prime Minister's office and the Law Minister, and they have colluded and have presented a hoax of a report to the country in this whole scam.
Okay, let me then take that to Mr. Abid Khan. Mr. Khan, again, excuse our skepticism here, but a lot of people are not going to buy this argument that, the CBI is an independent body after everything that we have seen that has happened. By the CBI director's own admission, this report was shown to the Law Minister and PMO officials and officials in the Coal Ministry because they desired it. Was that appropriate? Even if hypothetically they didn't make any changes, and we know that changes were made, they are being called grammatical errors, which many are laughing at. But even if that was the case, why should they meet on this? Why should that report be shown to them at all?
Nini, as Mr. Karthikeyan was saying, the affidavit filed by the CBI director is factual and true, and we should appreciate that. And when you talk about CBI being under the pressure of the government, if that was the case, this type of affidavit would not have been filed. And secondly, I would like to put it here that the habit of BJP to come out and demand the resignation of Prime Minister or the concerned minister without waiting for a final order from the Supreme Court, when the matter is being supervised by the Supreme Court, is something which is going far beyond the requirement. If there is something wrong, the Supreme Court definitely will intervene and say that this is wrong. So before waiting for the orders, BJP, in a habit to popularize it with a particular agenda of getting some benefits in Karnataka where the elections are shortly on, is trying to play all these gimmicks. Now the point is, if BJP wants to really debate a matter, they can do it in parliament. They don't want to do that. They want to stall the parliament. If BJP really wants to find out if something has been altered and the government has prevailed upon the CBI to alter something, they can put in a petition in the Supreme Court asking for the amended draft and the actual draft, and the truth will come out. We are very clear and we are true.
Let me complete. Let me ask you, just on principle, you don't think it's inappropriate that when the government is also being investigated for these coal allocations, that it's inappropriate for the investigating agency to meet officials from the Prime Minister's office, the Coal Ministry and the Law Minister to discuss a status report that has to be given to the Supreme Court? You don't think that's just a little bit inappropriate?
Nidhi, we are trying to make out the Prime Minister's office and the Law Minister's office as not part of the government, not part of the country, not part of the whole system. The point is, these are all part of the system, and it is normal for CBI to discuss something. But if the ministries have prevailed upon CBI to alter the report or exclude some portion, definitely there is something wrong. But you just cannot put things into it in the perspective. And the CBI affidavit is very clear that I have not altered anything and the government has not prevailed on me to change it. No, the CBI affidavit does not say that. Let me just correct you there.
It says that.
It says that. If you read the fine print, it says that.
It is actually mystifyingly silent on the issue of whether any alterations or changes were made. The affidavit doesn't say a word on that. And I'll bring Jai Panda into this. Jai Panda, we know that the CBI comes under the Personnel Ministry, but is it normal then for ministries and for the investigation agency to have consultations in a case that, in which concerned ministries are being investigated? It's absurd.
This issue clearly begs the larger question of the CBI's independence, and this has been a burning issue in recent years. In fact, the agitations by civil society over the last 3 years about the Lokpal bill, for instance, centered on this issue of getting the CBI to be independent of the government of the day so that it could be impartial. Now, as far as the current scheme of things, obviously it is not just this government, but also in the past the CBI has been interfered with, and they have, I understand, consultations with the government have been fairly common. But in this particular case, it is shocking beyond belief, because some statements were made to the court that this was not so in this particular instance, and then later on there had to be backtracking in the affidavit submitted. So it's obviously it's very shocking, and as you yourself just pointed out, you can't have the investigating agency be guided by those who are being investigated. There is something clearly wrong in that. Now, since the matter is indeed in court, it is in the Supreme Court, we are all eagerly waiting to see how the court itself views this kind of blatant I think you can, I don't know how the word, I don't have the words to describe this kind of, I'd use stronger words if I wasn't on television. But I think if this hasn't convinced us in Parliament, if this hasn't convinced us and my colleagues in Parliament that we really need to legislate a complete and true independence for the CBI, then I really don't know what will.
All right, before I go to the rest of the panel tonight, I just want to stress here that Mr. Abid Rasool Khan has been actually brave enough to represent the Congress party tonight on this television show, whereas all the official spokespersons in the government today of the Congress party have declined to take part in any debate concerning this particular issue. However, Mr. Rashid Alvi, who's a national spokesperson of the Congress party, I did record a small interview with him just a little while earlier. I want the entire panel to hear this and to hear what the Congress's official explanation is for this, and then get their reactions. Mr. Alvi, I'm just going to straight off ask you, don't you believe this report is a big embarrassment for the government? The CBI telling the Supreme Court it did share the status report. Doesn't it undermine the credibility of a government that keeps saying that the CBI is independent?
There is no question for any kind of embarrassment, because government has not committed anything wrong. As far as draft report of CBI is concerned, draft report has not been shown to anybody. Final draft has not been shown to anyone at all. Not Law Minister, not any officer, not any officer of the PMO. So where is the question for any kind of embarrassment for the government? CBI.
Why should any draft or any version of the status report be shown to the Law Minister and officials in the Prime Minister's office? Why should any version be shown to them?
Nidhi ji, final report, Supreme Court has concern with the final report. That final report which is prepared has not been shown to anybody, not even to Law Minister. Supreme Court has concern with the final affidavit, final report of the CBI. CBI is absolutely independent body. CBI doesn't work under any pressure. CBI doesn't take any direction from Law Minister. It is CBI's job. And I think all of us should wait. Matter is pending before the Supreme Court. Supreme Court will take an appropriate action. And we should wait for the judgment of the Supreme Court.
You know, Mr. Alvi, this argument on the draft report is a rather weak one because we don't know what was in the draft report and what is in the final report. We don't know what changes were made between the two of them. As Arun Jaitley said today, make that draft report public so that we can compare the two and see, you know, what changes there are, if any.
As far as Arun Jaitley ji is concerned, you know it very well, entire country knows this very well, that Bharatiya Janata Party is in habit to mislead the country, to misguide the country, to make baseless allegations against government, against Congress party. Just please try to remember it. They demanded JPC. They didn't allow Parliament to function. Complete session was wasted. Today, they are again not allowing Parliament to function because of the report of JPC. I said that very day, when report will be submitted, again BJP will raise their fingers against the report. And it is happening today. This is the habit of Bharatiya Janata Party.
But Mr. Alvi,
this is the character of BJP.
This is not about the BJP. Mr. Alvi, this is not about the BJP. This is about what we are asking you. This is about propriety. Is it proper for the Law Minister and for PMO officials to be meeting the CBI in this way and to be shown the status report? Why should they?
CBI met Law Minister or not. But in case, if Law Minister would have met CBI Director, whether this is there anything wrong? This is against the law? Whether CBI Director has given any statement that Law Minister has put pressure on him? Whether Law Minister asked him to change the report? Not at all.
But Mr. Alvi,
not at all. CBI Director has not made any allegation against the Law Minister at all.
Mr. Alvi, I just want to tell you that they did meet. They met on the 5th of March. And the point is, why should the Law Minister see that status report on the coal scam when it is the government that is being investigated? That is the question I come back to. They did meet and he did see that report. He actually made changes to that report as well.
Law Minister has not gone through the final report of CBI. It is very important. CBI Director has not even shown the report to the Law Minister. So it is just a propaganda of Bharatiya Janata Party and nothing else. And matter is pending before the Supreme Court. I think all of us should wait for the judgment of Supreme Court. We should wait for the direction of Supreme Court.
Well, you know, Mr. Alvi, at the end of the day, many believe that the Law Minister's position is now untenable, that this is a serious credibility crisis for your government.
I don't think Law Minister has done anything wrong. It is just baseless allegations being made against him. There is no crime if any officer is meeting any minister. Just because any officer has met minister, we speculate so many things. Basically, it is wrong. It is absolutely wrong.
All right, Mr. Rashid Alvi, the national spokesperson of the Congress Party, thank you very much for giving us your perspective. Well, that was Mr. Alvi speaking to me just a little while earlier with that defense. Let me ask Nilotpal Basu of the CPM, what did you think of that defense? Does anything that he said there make sense to you?
I think this defense is completely misplaced. Because we are very much aware of the constitutional scheme, about the independence of the three organs, and since it is sub judice, and as Jay was trying to tell earlier, you see, the CBI has become a grey area. So one of the solutions is a Supreme Court monitored investigation, so that semblance of independence of CBI can be ensured. And I think the law minister earlier made a statement that I was improving the English. So how can Rashid Alvi say that he was not... This is what
government sources and those close to him had said, that he was making grammatical changes. And but that's the problem, that there is a serious credibility crisis here. And let me take that to Aarti.
It's a question of conflict of interest, clearly.
Exactly. So Aarti, no one's buying the Congress argument today. And there's a good reason for that.
No, absolutely. I mean, Rashid Alvi's defense is so completely misplaced. You can pick holes in it from beginning to end. The point is, they're trying to emphasize this thing that the final report was not shown to the government, that the law minister did not see it. If the final report was prepared as per dictation from the law minister, then it doesn't need to be shown to the law minister, right? So what we need to find out is, when the CBI director went with that draft report, what were the changes that were made? The CBI has placed a very limited affidavit in the Supreme Court. It's just answered the question in a very limited manner. The real story will unfold once the hearing begins in the Supreme Court on the 30th of April, when the Supreme Court starts asking more details and starts questioning the CBI director on what happened in that meeting, where 12 people, as many as 12 people were present, including officials of the Coal Ministry and an official of the PMO. I mean, really, it was just a status report. Why should the law minister ask the CBI director to come with that draft?
Mr. Abid Khan, your response to the criticism that you've heard.
There are three questions which needs to be answered. First, whether the report being shown to the law minister as stated in the affidavit of the director is wrong. Secondly, whether there were any changes. Thirdly, do we really need to again argue it when it's in the Supreme Court and under the purview of the Supreme Court? On the first point, I would like to say that if the CBI has formally discussed the report and the law minister has not intervened and made any changes, then it's not such a big issue that it becomes a national debate. Secondly, if the law minister has made changes to protect his government and protect the misdoings, then it's a grave mistake which we need to definitely hang our heads down in shame for that. Thirdly, when the matter is in the Supreme Court and the matter is posted for 30th, we talk about everything and the BJP talks about all implications, Prime Minister's resignation of a country. Doesn't make sense. Why BJP is avoiding a debate, you need to find out. BJP is avoiding a debate because they do not want that earlier part of NDA rule to come out, where there were huge scams in this. BJP doesn't trust any agency. It doesn't trust CBI, it doesn't trust NIA, it doesn't trust JPC, it doesn't trust any other body which investigates. Always they are trying to have a report after report so that something comes out, they get some fodder to beat the government with. This is totally wrong.
Well, actually,
it's a waste of time.
To say that you're all doing yourself quite a favor in beating yourself very well every day. Jay Panda, the BJP has taken this argument a step further today and said that the blame really lies at the Prime Minister's doorstep. It's not just about Ashwini Kumar anymore. Would you share that view, Jay Panda?
Well, in one respect, clearly, because the Prime Minister was apparently himself in charge of the Coal Ministry for a part of this duration which is being investigated. But I would agree that we should hold our horses a little bit until the Supreme Court takes a final view, because the Supreme Court has to decide how outraged it is by this volte-face, on the one hand saying that it was not referred to the government and then having to admit that it was indeed referred to the government. But that doesn't mean, just because it is in the Supreme Court doesn't mean we can't be outraged outside, and not just here on television panels, but I think throughout the country there is a sense of outrage that you go and make such blatant misrepresentations even at the highest court of the country. So as far as where blame lies, I will leave that to the Supreme Court, but clearly there is something rotten somewhere in there, and that needs action.
You know, Nidhi, I just want to make a point that, you know, the Supreme Court will look at the legality, the legal question and the technical question. But there is an ethical question. Exactly. Yes. It's an ethical question involved, a political question. It's a question of political propriety as well. That when the government itself is under the scanner on the coal scam, that, you know, should the government be at all monitoring what the CBI is doing, even, you know, vetting a status report, an innocuous thing like a status report. But do you say, and I don't think the Supreme Court can decide on that. I think those things need to be decided, you know, need to be discussed and debated in Parliament and decided in Parliament, which is the right forum.
Actually, this is the essence of separation of power. If you see the constitutional scheme, I mean, when the judiciary is looking at something and where the executive is being questioned and whether that question are valid or not, that is being examined by the judiciary, it is there that the judiciary should be allowed to function independently, and the interference by the law minister and the other officials of the executive amounts to actually undermining the independence of judiciary in an area which is clearly their prerogative.
But Sitaram Yechuri made an interesting comment today. He said that this is all match fixing by the BJP and the Congress on the coal issue. Why is he saying that? Because both are under the dock on the allocation issue.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the standing committee report, I mean, this is really outrageous what has happened. And from 1993 to 2011, they are saying not a single paper is available in terms of.
So are you saying that they're not serious about the demand for the
I mean, the BJP also should own up responsibility, and the Kullan Banerjee, who is the chairman of TMC, he also covers the period where for some time Ms. Mamata Banerjee was also the coal minister.
No, so what does match fixing mean? That they're not serious about their demand for the PM to resign, for the law minister to go?
I am saying that disruption of the House. Disruption of the House is something which is needed to be avoided, and while a resignation demand is fine, but at the same time, if the House does not transact business, there are many other issues. And this issue will not go for a while, I am sure. I mean, the Parliament will ensure that ultimately the government comes clean in terms of accountability. Okay, but what is the point in disrupting the House?
Okay, Chandan Mitra, take that response from you on what Mr. Nilotpal Basu said, in particular on the BJP's role in this.
No, I think, you see, let's not divert, let's not bring in irrelevant issues that are being raised, the BJP Congress match fixing, great one-liners, but of no consequence today. Today the CBI and the Government of India, Prime Minister and Law Minister are in the dock. They have been caught red-handed, and CBI has been forced to admit that they tampered with the report. I can understand why every official spokesperson of the Congress has run away, because they need only some of the people who have appeared here today to say with a brazenly, with a straight face, that nobody has done any wrong. Law Minister has done the right thing. The Prime Minister has done absolutely no wrong. Everything is above board. Nobody else can say it with a straight face. It is absolutely crystal clear what is going on. And you know, the whole principle of jurisprudence has been turned on its head, where the accused is now writing his own acquittal report, which is exactly what has happened. The Prime Minister, under the able guidance of the Law Minister, obviously made changes in the draft report, acquitting himself. The Prime Minister acquitted himself, acquitted the government, and that report has been presented by this, has been admitted by the CBI, and we shall wait to see what the CBI finally does in its final report. But when presenting the final report, it has to place the draft report also on before the court, so that we know which are the paragraphs that were changed, in which place the Prime Minister was inducted in the status report, and how he was exonerated.
Because Mr. Abid Khan, the fact is, yes, Mr. Abid Khan, the fact is you're the lone soldier batting for the Congress tonight. You know, the fact is the national spokespersons are not taking part in debates tonight. No senior minister is willing to do it. No Congress spokesperson is willing to do it.
Nidhi, I really don't know why they didn't come, or what was their schedule and how busy they are. But I am also a congressman, and I am talking on behalf of the party with all humility, and I would like to submit here that ethics and probity in politics is very important, as being spoken on this panel, and particularly I am very sure that Congress party believes in it. But I would like to ask Mr. Chandan Mitra there from BJP, what is that you want to say when you have people who are accused of grave crimes as your General Secretary, as your Vice President, as your Parliamentary Board member, and where you have your own party.
Mr. Khan, where you have...
You are, no, let me complete it.
I'm sorry,
let me, I'm coming to it. No, I'm coming to it. When our law minister...
Gentlemen, please.
Mitraji.
This is about the independence of the investigating agency.
Mitraji, when our law...
The CBI,
let me let me complete it.
The main accused.
Why are you not letting me talk? No.
You answer that.
It is totally. Why are you getting upset? Why are you getting upset?
Mr. Khan, let's not digress. Please, let's not do other issues into this.
The whole country is upset.
I'm telling you one thing.
The whole country is upset. I am not upset. Why should I be upset?
If the law minister has discussed the report, he has made such a big issue. It's such a big issue where he is holding the country to ransom, the parliament to ransom.
Well, clearly you see no issues with the propriety of this or the impropriety of this. Jay Panda, going forward from here, you already flagged the issue of the independence of the CBI. Isn't that then central to the debate now? As Parliament meets again next week, do you really believe that the clamour for that will grow about how the CBI has to be dealt with, the ethical and moral issues that have crept into this? Because it's not a technical and legal issue like Aarti says. It's a moral and ethical issue.
Nidhi, I just want to say two quick things. First, about what the representative of the Congress was saying. We too think there are a lot of shocking things about the BJP, including some of the things he raised. But today we are all here on an agreed agenda to talk about the CBI's representation before the Supreme Court and the shocking blatantness with which this has happened. So let's focus on this issue and let's get some answers on this. And you're quite right. Unless we legislate independence for the CBI, this kind of blatant intervention and misuse of the CBI is going to continue, and something needs to be done. I think the time is ripe, and I agree with the idea that by next week we really must get Parliament focused on discussing this issue and hopefully trying to come up with a consensus.
Mr. Karthikeyan, would you agree with that it's time to legislate and completely change the way the CBI is handled, the structure of the CBI, who it reports to? It's clearly not an independent body, sir. I'm sure you'd submit to that.
I have always maintained independence of the CBI as an organization is a myth. In highly politically sensitive cases, the action has always been a suspect. Public perception is that it is influenced. I mean, it's been over a period of time. That is why we have been arguing for autonomy of the CBI functioning. For example, the Chief Election Commissioner or Comptroller Auditor General of India or Chief Business Commissioner cannot be called by anybody in the government for discussion. But it is not an abnormal practice for Director CBI for meeting ministers or officers, because it is a department of the government. It is like any other secretary of the government. But on matters which are monitored by the highest court in the land, when there is a prohibition of consultation with the governmental authorities, that should have been respected. They should not have been called, and they should have been advised that because of the court's direction, it is not proper for them to go and consult, even for informally.
Okay,
yes, the CBI officers have to consult the law officers, because for their advice in preparing the matters to be submitted to the court and all that, it is legitimate, certainly, but not others.
Well, it shouldn't be if it is an independent agency.
So you have to provide independence to CBI, otherwise this type of debate will go on forever.
It's so funny to hear the BJP talking about the need for an independent CBI. They were in government for 6 years. They didn't move even one step towards giving the CBI independent status. So I'm afraid, I think everybody is in it together in this game of keeping the CBI under government control. And honestly, I completely agree with Jay Panda that unless we start flagging the issue of the independence of the CBI, we're not going to have any kind of, proper investigation into cases of corruption or charges of corruption leveled against the political executive. But the point is, who's going to flag it? Who? I mean, are we going to...
feel there's political hypocrisy in the way this matter is handled?
Absolutely, and I think everybody is colluding in this.
I will reinforce this point. My point is not to deflect away from the question that is there today. I mean, on that I think there's a broad-based agreement, I mean, except for the Congress. But at the same time, I think these are institutions which ought to function in conjunction. You see, Parliamentary Standing Committee is a body where you have all the parties in it, and it is a unanimous recommendation, I tell you. And they are saying, because it underlines a complete collapse of the political administrative system when you say that you have distributed coal mines but there are no papers available for that. And you see, none of the political parties that have been responsible for that can really escape any accountability or responsibility for that. But that should not actually take away the importance of the question that we are discussing today. This is the limited point I think Sitaram was also making, and I am reiterating now.
Okay, I'm going to have to leave it at that. I'd like to thank all of you very much for coming in tonight. This is going to be an explosive political story as Parliament comes back next week. But I also spoke earlier to the former Solicitor General of India, Harish Salve, for his take on this, and there are some rather interesting points that he made as well. Listen in. Mr. Salve, was there anything that surprised you in the CBI's affidavit today?
Well, I wish they had had complete candor to give both the drafts, the uncorrected which emanated from the CBI and the ones which were corrected, so that that would have at least established what was the nature of the changes which the Law Minister made. See, saying that some changes were made but the gist of the report was not changed, etc., really is only half the story or two-thirds of the story. If they have nothing to hide, then they should have come out and said, look, this is what he changed, or whether it was purely textual, whether it was dotting some I's and crossing some T's, or whether there was any substantive change made. Second and more important is, we haven't heard why did the CBI agree to this meeting. That's most important. Why did they agree to this meeting? And I'm sorry, there is one important perception which needs to be cleared. If the affidavit was being filed by a ministry of the government, then of course it would have to be vet by the legal department. CBI is an autonomous organization. CBI files affidavits day in and day out. They have recently filed an affidavit, for example, in the Sunil Mittal case. There was no question of asking the Law Minister. So why this departure from practice, and why have they gone and consulted the Law Minister? I think that is not explained.
Exactly. Even though the fact that the status report was shown to the Law Minister, PMO officials, even if the PMO is the presiding ministry, is that a valid argument that those are just normal consultations, as many in the government are making?
Apart from that, I am a little worried about the turn of phrase. As was desired by them, I read it on your website, which says, as was desired by them. How can you say that if the PMO's office desires to know what your secret report to the court is going to be, we will share it with them? Or what you are going to tell the Supreme Court, we will inform them just because they desire it? You know, there are a lot of important unexplained issues in this affidavit. I think there is a lot more to be said. I mean, it is almost Churchillian. You know, what it reveals is exciting, but what it conceals is vital.
And what do you then make of the defense that the draft was shared but not the final report? Does that sound hollow to you as well?
It's like this, it is my draft opinions which are shown to me, which I correct, not my final opinions which my office hands out. I mean, come on, a report draft is what you are going to do. Let's be very clear. There were some changes which the Law Minister proposed. There was something given to him, he changed something. Did you or did you not incorporate those? First of all, why did you at all show it to him? That's the huge propriety issue. Secondly, I mean, by what authority was the meeting called? Secondly, what were the changes he proposed? We would like to see. And did you carry out those changes? That's the real issue. If you carried out the changes but didn't go back to him, how does it matter?
And therefore then the meeting itself, I mean the ethical and moral questions we've been talking about as well, was the meeting itself appropriate at all? That meeting that took place on the 5th of March between the Law Minister, the CBI PMO officials, given that the government itself is under investigation, there are serious ethical questions here.
Let's be very clear, what the Supreme Court wanted to know from the CBI was about the existence of a set of facts. It was not CBI's advice on a question of law. Supreme Court doesn't need CBI's advice on legal issues. They were worried as to whether the government had any machinery in place by which the screening of the coal blocks was done, or was it being done ad hoc. It's a factual issue. There are no law issues arising here. So the CBI was looking at a set of facts about conduct of government. Where is the question of discussing this with anybody? It is the CBI was acting virtually as a commissioner of the court. They were not acting as a wing of the government. If the court had to believe the government of India, they would have gone by the affidavit filed by the Ministry of Coal. They are not satisfied with the Ministry of Coal affidavit. They are not satisfied by the Ministry of Power affidavit. So they have asked an independent agency to find out what the hell was going on. Now if that independent agency goes back to the very people whose affidavit could have been filed any which way, what is the use? So this whole meeting, according to me, the Law Minister's conduct in calling the meeting and the CBI's conduct in accepting to go for such a meeting and then go to the PMO because they desired such a meeting requires a serious answer.
You know, Mr. Salve, there are also serious questions then on the role of the Additional Solicitor General Hareen Rawal, who had actually told the Supreme Court that earlier status report had not been looked at by the political executive. Did he then mislead the court? Are there question marks on what he told the court and even question marks on the Attorney General?
Well, I have asked some colleagues who were present in court, and there are conflicting versions of what transpired in court. So I would not like to comment on that, because I believe somebody said something and then somebody said something else and somebody from CBI said something. So I think we should allow him to give his explanation to court. And if he has, that's ultimately a matter for the Supreme Court and its law officers. If anybody has misled the court, it is not right, but I think that we should allow events to unfold and let the lawyers to explain. I think a far more, the real issue and which we cannot lose focus is the government bullying the CBI? Is the government dictating to the CBI? And worse, is the CBI listening to the dictates of the government of India? And if that is so, then I'm sorry to say, I don't know where we go from this now.
And therefore, do you feel that the
law CBI is acting like this, then we have no other agency left.
Do you feel then that the Law Minister's position then is untenable, or does the buck stop even higher with the Prime Minister?
Well, the Law Minister, going by what the CBI has said, I find the Law Minister has a lot to explain as to how he did what he did. And it is for the Prime Minister to decide if he is satisfied with his explanation and deal with him accordingly. As a senior member of the bar, all I can tell you is, this was not what was expected of the CBI and this was not what was expected of the government of India.
All right, Mr. Harish Salve, thanks very much. Well, that is the big explosive political story today, one that will have huge repercussions next week as well, as we've been mentioning. On the 30th, that's on Tuesday, the Supreme Court will then make its first observations known on the CBI affidavit, and then we could see possibly whether the Law Minister then is forced to step down. We're going to take a break. When we come back, there's another big story that's been breaking across the border in Pakistan. Indian prisoner Sarabjit Singh is in critical condition in hospital right now after apparently being beaten inside a jail in Lahore. We'll have more on that story that could have diplomatic ramifications as well right after the break. Has been an attack on Indian prisoner Sarabjit Singh in a Pakistani jail. Reports say that he was attacked by two of his jailmates and has sustained very serious injuries to his face and his head, and is said to be in critical condition in the ICU of a hospital in Lahore, the Jinnah Hospital in Lahore, where he apparently arrived in an unconscious state. Joining us for more on that story is my colleague Yusra Askari. Yusra, what more can you tell us on this?
Nidhi, I have been in touch with Sarabjit Singh's counsel Oveshe, who has confirmed with me that two jailmates have attacked Sarabjit Singh. He has been seriously injured. He has confirmed the news and he said it is very disturbing. He is currently en route to the hospital and he says he hopes that his life is saved. I did also speak with some other sources who have confirmed that Sarabjit reached the hospital Lahore in a critical condition. He was taken into the ICU where he is under treatment. He is responding positively and is said to be better. The two jailmates who have attacked him are said to be identified as Amir and Mudassir. They have been taken into further questioning and they are being questioned by the authorities. An investigation has been launched and 4 employees of Kot Lakhpat jail have been suspended, including the warden. Nidhi?
Now, Yusra, the Indian High Commission, we understand, has also contacted the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. I think we can just come back to you in a moment. We have Mr. Ansar Birni joining us now on the phone line, and Mr. Okay, well, I believe we don't have him. I'll come back to Yusra. Yusra, the High Commission of India has contacted the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Pakistan. It has asked for whatever medical assistance, of course, and also they are sending 2 officers for consular access. What is the Pakistani government saying on this?
At the moment, what the Foreign Office sources are telling us that a high-level inquiry has been launched into the incident. No formal statement, however, has been issued with regard to this incident at the time. Our sources on ground do tell us security has been put into place at Jinnah Hospital. Media is being denied access to Sarabjit Singh. We also do know that access for other people who are within the hospital premises has also been limited. Nidhi?
All right, Yusra, thanks very much for those details. So, 4 officials, as Yusra was saying there, of the Kot Lakhpat jail in Lahore have been suspended for this. But Sarabjit Singh, who has been on death row in Pakistan for many years now, he's been accused by the Pakistanis of being a spy. His case has been repeatedly taken up by the Indian government over the last few years, pleading for mercy for him, pleading for pardon for him, something that has been taken up at the highest levels between the government of India and Pakistan. But here he is in critical condition now in the ICU of a Lahore hospital. We're getting first reactions in now from his family here in India, as well as the Home Minister, who also spoke a short while ago.
बिल्कुल पाकिस्तान की मिलीजुली साजिश और जेल अधिकारियों की साजिश, और जो भी इतना जब कहते हैं कि सरबजीत को एकदम हमने अलग से ज्यादा सिक्योरिटी दी और एक खास जो इतना चल रहा हो केस, उसकी क्यों नहीं जान की सुरक्षा की गई। ये मिली हुई भगत थी, उसके साथ ये जो कुछ हुआ जानबूझकर हमला कराया गया।